Hello everyone, I am Dr. Tanveer Ahmed, Associate Professor Animal Nutrition at Arid Agriculture University, Rawalpindi. In this video, I will discuss about feed additives and performance modifiers generally used in ruminant diets. So, what are feed additives? Feed additives, they are the non-nutritive substances. They are added in feed in small amount to improve the performance and productivity of the animal. So, here is a list of common usage of different feed additives. In general, they are used to improve the efficiency of feed utilization. They are also used to improve the feed acceptance by the animal and to improve the keeping qualities of the feed. Some feed additives, they are used to improve the health of the animal, and how they improve the animal efficiency, animal performance. So, definitely that is through change in the nutrient metabolism in the animal body. So, these four are considered as general functions of the feed additives. So, AFCO, Association of American Feed Control Officials of USA, they define feed additives as an ingredient or combination of ingredients added to the basic feed mix to fulfill a specific need. So, it means the additive, they are used not only for a single function, they are used to have a particular function. Usually, they are used in micro quantities and they require careful handling and mixing. Definitely, when feed additives, they are used in small quantities. So, a careful handling and mixing is required, otherwise they could not be thoroughly mixed in the complete diet. So, now the question arises, when there are nutrients in the diet, then why we use different non-nutritive feedstuffs in the form of feed additives? So, they are used to have a desired response, like they alter the metabolism, they affect growth, they have an effect on gut pH or ruminal pH, they are used to manipulate rumen microflora, and ultimately they have a positive impact on digestion. They improve the digestion and they also improve animal yield. And some of the feed additives, they are used to reduce acidosis, improve immune response, and to increase the palatability of the diet. And from environmental pollution concern, or to have a good environment at farm, some of the feed additives, they are used to improve the environment by reducing fecal odor, and some are used to reduce the joint pain. So, they are all some usage of different feed additives. So, look on the right side of the screen. So, in ruminant animals, they are used to increase the milk yield. The objective is to attain the peak milk and to improve the persistency of the lactation. They are also used to increase milk fat or milk protein contents. In dairy animals or meat animals, they are used to improve the growth, they improve the body weight gain, and also some of the feed additives, they help to improve the dry matter intake, and particularly in case of ruminant animals, a maintenance of ruminal pH is of great importance when we are feeding concentrate to the animal. So, they are used to maintain desired ruminal pH. They are used to stimulate rumen microbial synthesis of protein and or VFAs production. They also change the rate of feed passage, improve nutrient digestion in the rumen, stabilize the rumen environment, definitely the maintenance of pH or maintaining the VFAs ratio in the rumen. So, they help in stabilizing the rumen environment. They also minimize the weight loss or increase the weight gain in meat animal. Some of the feed additives, they help to reduce the negative impact of heat stress, particularly the metabolic disorders which are common due to high concentrate feeding or in high lactating animals. So, to countercheck those metabolic disorders and to improve the health, the feed additives, they are commonly used. So, here are some major classes of feed additives. So, anyone can make a different groups of feed additives, because a single feed additive sometimes have a multiple impact, like the feed additives which improve feed utilization, they also improve the feed efficiency, or they also have a positive impact on production or growth performance of the animal. So, the first category is growth promotion and feed efficiency. In this category, the common feed additives, they are the antibiotics, prebiotics and probiotics. Similarly, hormones, they are used as an additive in the form of implant or in the form of some injections. And there are many other type of feed additives which can be categorized under this heading. Then there are hormone like products, they are used as feed additives or in the form of implants. So, like bovine somatotropin, that is used to improve the growth performance of the animal, to increase the weight gain. So, that can be placed under growth promotion and feed efficiency product, or it can also be placed under hormone like products. Then comes the medicinal use. Anticoccidial drugs or coccidiostats, they are most commonly used in case of monogastric species, particularly in case of poultry, to control coccidiosis. Then deworming agents, anthelmintics, they can also be used as a feed additives. So, in the other categories, there are a long list of feed additives, and in some books or in some literature, they have been defined under a very precise category, like this buffer and neutralizer. They are used as a stabilizer of rumen environment. Antioxidants, they are used as to improve the keeping qualities of the diet, because they reduce the oxidation, particularly when high amount of fat is added in the feed. Certain preservatives or like organic acids, they are used as an antifungal agent, they are also used as preservatives. So, you can define that category as preservative. Then binders, pellet binders, bentonites, they are used to help or facilitate the process of pellet making. Then probiotics or direct fed microbes, they are used in animal diet. Then coloring agents, flavoring agents, emulsifiers. So, they are all these three coloring agents, flavoring agents and emulsifiers, they are used to improve the keeping quality of the diet. We can keep a diet for a long time, or that help in making more acceptance. Like in case of pet animal diets, we can use the color agents that look more attractive, that makes it more attractive by the pet. Similarly, flavoring agents, sometimes we use a feed stuff that is not the smell or the odor is not acceptable by the animal. So, we use pleasant flavoring agents in the diet, so that improve the intake of that stuff. Emulsifiers, particularly when we are using fat, so that help in fat digestion. So, you can say these three they are directly related to the feed. Phytogens, again they are used as feed additives, and they have their lot of beneficial effect in terms of their improving animal growth, improving the utilization of the nutrients. Enzymes, most commonly used in monogastric diet, but in case of ruminants we can use some cellulolytic enzymes to improve the fiber utilization in the ruminants. Mold inhibitors to improve the keeping quality of the diet. Organic acids can be used as a preservative, or they can also reduce the diet pH that help in its utilization in the lower gut. Antifungal agents again as a preservatives, odor and fly control products mainly used in ruminant animal diets to have a fecal matter with less odor and to control the flies. So, these are some major classes of feed additives, but you can classify according to your need, because like antibiotics, they are used to prevent the disease, but when they are used as a therapeutic level or sub-therapeutic levels, so they help in growth promotion. Coccidiostatin to control the parasite or coccidiosis, then xanthophyll or pigments, they are used to make or give yellow color to the yolk, particularly in poultry. Hormone like product to improve the growth. Buffers like bicarbonate, they are used to prevent ruminal acidosis. Antioxidants to prevent feed from getting rancid. Binders keeps feed in pellet form. Flavoring agents makes feed taste better. Surfactants or emulsifiers help lipid digestion, and they are also improve the milk yields. Anionic salt, they are mainly used in dairy animals to maintain the dietary cation anion balance in the diet. So, they help to reduce the diet pH or acidify the diet. So, that help in calcium reabsorption from the bone, and it improve calcium absorption from the gut. So, while going to the substitution or addition of these additives in the diet, there is a need to follow the regulations. So, why we should go for following the regulations? Because use of feed additives is strictly regulated in the developed countries and in many others to ensure human food safety, animal safety, additive efficacy, and to reduce its impact or to minimize its environmental impact. Particularly keeping animals under the confined conditions and to get maximum benefit out of the animal, there is a rapid increase in the utilization of feed additives, not only in Pakistan, but also all over the world, that they have tremendous increase, have noted in feed additives utilization. So, that is why whatsoever the case is, we should follow all the regulations. In Pakistan, Drug Regulating Authority DRAP, that deals with drugs and feed additives, and animal product which we are going to sell in the market, like milk, meat or egg, they must comply with the laws, because in some type of feed additives a withdrawal period is required, like antibiotics, though they have been banned since for a long time in Western as well as European countries, but in Pakistan still farmers, they are malpracticing, and they are giving antibiotics to the broiler birds or to the layer birds, and they do not take care of the withdrawal period. So, that have a that resulted in the development of antimicrobial resistance in the human being due to this low intake of antibiotics through this antibiotic residues coming from animal product. So, that is why the law compliance is must, but in Pakistan still lot of efforts they are required at government level to enforce the laws about the utilization of feed additives or even the drugs. So, when we are going to use feed additives in compound formula, so there is a need to be careful. We should follow manufacturer instructions. So, the instructions they are available on the label present with the feed additives. So, all instructions given or given over the label, we should read and follow those instructions. The second most important factor is the mixing of feed additives, because they are given in a small amount. There is the micronutrient, so proper mixing for correct amount of additive in mixed diet is required. So, always use clean equipment while mixing these feed additives, and then that should be mixed with the whole mix. And record keeping is most important, because when we are giving medicines as a feed additives, the proper batch numbering, its manufacturer, expiry date, all should be kept in mind, and a proper should be kept. So, now from this to onward, we will discuss all the classes one by one. The first one is growth promotion and feed efficiency class, that include antibiotics, pre and probiotic, hormones, and many others. Then hormone likes probiotics. So, we will discuss one by one. The first one is growth promotion and feed efficiency. So, under this there are two main classes. The first one is antibiotics, and the second one is chemotherapeutic agents. Antibiotic, these are the substances which are produced by a living organism that has bacteriostatic or bactericidal properties. So, they are fed to reduce the incidence of subclinical levels of infection in the GIT or respiratory tracts, but at subtherapeutic level or subclinical levels, they increase the rate of gain and feed efficiency. And these antibiotics are most commonly used as a growth promoter in monogastric species. As I have already told that in Western and European countries, their usage as a feed additives or as a growth promoter that have been banned since for a very long time. The reason being is only the issue which is related to the development of antibiotic resistance in human being. So, the second category is chemotherapeutic agents. So, these are the inorganic or organic compounds that inhibit the growth of target organism. So, they are not produced by the living organism. This is the difference between antibiotic and chemotherapeutic agents. Antibiotics, they are produced by the living organism, while the chemotherapeutic agents, they are not produced by the living organisms. So, under the antibiotics, as they are produced by the microorganisms or fungi that protect the growth of bacteria. So, antibiotics are the chemical compound that when given in small amount, they halt the growth of bacteria, and they are used to control the disease. So, subtherapeutic levels of antibiotics, they are added to the feed to enhance the rate of growth. So, there are different groups of antibiotics that act in different ways to reduce the number of specific bacteria in the gut, and thereby increase the efficiency of nutrient utilization. The broad spectrum antibiotics, they are given to the animal when the specific disease is unknown. So, that have also the same impact. Common examples are trimycin or euromycin. So, antibiotics are the compound, they are produced by the microorganism. So, here they reduce the number of pathogenic bacteria. So, this is basically how these antibiotics they act, or their mechanism of action in general. They reduces the amount of pathogenic bacteria, they increase the capacity of the small intestine, and they reduce the competition of bacteria with the host. So, this is the most common or general mechanism of these antibiotics. Their widespread use could cause the ability of certain strains to be resistant to many antibiotics. This is what I am mentioning. The subtherapeutic level or subclinical levels result in this antibiotic resistance. So, in European Union, use of antibiotic growth promoters that has been restricted since 2000. So, the general mechanism or the mode of action of antibiotics. Antibiotics, the first one is the antibiotics that interfere with the synthesis of material forming the bacterial cell wall and cause the cell to burst. The examples are avoparcin or flavomycin. The second group is they are the inhibitors of bacterial protein synthesis like tylosin and virginiamycin. Third mode of action is inhibitors of bacterial DNA synthesis like nitrofurans and quinoxaline or noxides. Then ionophores antibiotics, the common example is monensin sodium. So, they are not antibiotics, but their mechanism is just like the antibiotics. So, more detailed information on the modes of action, they are available in your textbook Animal Nutrition by McDonald. However, I will briefly explain about one by one of these mechanisms. Number one, antibiotics that interfere with the synthesis of material forming the bacteria cell wall and cause the cell to burst. So, these are high molecular weight compounds that act on gram positive bacteria. They are poorly absorbed by the host and thus are non-toxic, leave no detectable residue and have no withdrawal period. The second one is inhibitors of bacterial protein synthesis. These are also primarily active against gram positive bacteria and have a medium molecular weight, that is greater than 500. Although they are absorbed to a greater extent than the higher molecular weight compounds, they do not have a withdrawal period. Example is tylosin and virginiamycin. Third is inhibitors of bacterial DNA synthesis. They can have a broad spectrum of activity, have a low molecular weight about 250 and require withdrawal period, nitrofurans. Last one is ionophores antibiotics. These interfere with the electrolyte balance of the bacterial cell by transporting potassium into the cell, which then requires energy to pump it out. Eventually, the ion pump fails to operate efficiently. Next are what we have plus point from these antibiotics. They improve feed efficiency, growth is nearly always increased, particularly when animal exposed to adverse environmental conditions, like if we are keeping animal under unhygienic conditions or they have some microbial attack. So, that can be counterchecked by such type of antibiotic. Feed intake usually decreases in ruminant when antibiotics are given, but the effects varies with the type of animal species. Antibiotic fed animals, they are less apt to go off feed. Can control a wide variety of diseases. So, as a rule, reduce the incidence of severity of several types of diarrhea. So, antimicrobial drugs or antibiotics, some are approved at low levels of continuous use for reducing the incidence of like enterotoxemia, liver abscess in fattening cattle, or diarrhea in young mammals deprived of the colostrum. And in case of poultry, some claims include reduction in respiratory diseases, non-specific enteritis, and infectious sinusitis. and there is improved egg production and hatchability. Chemotherapeutic agents, they are the arsenicals, commonly used in local language. We say it's a sanatha. So arsenicals, they are all synthetic compounds and include a number of drugs used in turkey, chicken and swine rations. They are used to control parasites. Some stimulate growth in the same manner as antibiotic, and they may accumulate in liver, and there is a withdrawal period that should be followed according to the type of the drugs. Then nitrofurans, these are the synthetic antibiotics, or they are the antibacterial compounds. They are effective against large number of microbial diseases. Continued use of nitrofurans has not yet developed the bacterial resistance. Then sulfur drugs are the drugs which contain sulfur, sulfur containing compounds, though their reduction in use, they have problem with tissue residues, and most of the problems they are alleviated by sulfur. They can be managed with the other additives. So rather than giving the sulfur drug to the animal, it is better to go for some other type of feed. Then animal health feed additives, they are used for the prevention or even for the treatment of different diseases. The first one is coccidiostats. They are usually used in poultry because when we keep poultry and even the ruminant animals under the confined condition, the chances of coccidiosis are more. So to avoid cocci in confined ruminants, coccidiostats can be used. Then comes the anthelmintic drugs. They are used to control the worms. The examples are piperazine and diclovos. Then histostats, histomoniasis, blackhead, that is a protozoan disease that affect turkey and some other poultry, and they affect the liver and cecum. Then in case of GIT, there is a chances of enteritis, diarrhea or dysentery. Then melangestrol or MGA to suppress estrus in heifers, that has also been used as an animal health additive. Then bloat control products, they are also available in the market, and they can be used to control bloat in animals. That's a nutritional bloat is a nutritional disorder that is characterized by the accumulation of gases in the reticular rumen. So FDA approved drugs, they are available in the market, and they can be used when we are feeding animal and the chances of bloat or tympany are there, we can use these bloat control products. Bloat is a nutritional disorder, and the primary type of bloats are free gas and frothy bloat. Ruminants fed high concentrate low roughage rations, they may develop free gas and frothy bloat. Frothy bloat may occur in ruminant consuming immature legume forages or wheat forages. The FDA approved feed additives like this poloxaline, it can be used to treat the bloat in animals, particularly when we are feeding high concentrate or low roughage ration. Then we can use this ionophores or monensin to control this, because these ionophores, they help to maintain the acetate to propionate ratio in the rumen. Next comes the hormones. Hormones, they are used to improve the feed efficiency, rate of gain in ruminant animals. Hormone like feed additives. Hormones, they are the substances produced by the endocrine organs to activate other organs. The synthesized compounds that produce the same response as natural hormone can be used to promote the milk production or promote animal growth. So, hormones, they are synthetically produced and can be used in animal as an implant or as an injection. So, they can be fed or they can be implanted. Cautions because they need a withdrawal period. Here is the example of this MGA, melangestrol acetate. That is the only hormone like production improver that remain on the FDA approved list. So, that is extensively used with the beef heifers, and it also suppress estrus, which result in more efficient and more rapid gain in the animal. Then implants, they are also available in the market. They are usually implanted in the ear of the animal. Although they are not the feed additives, they are the products which are available for use as a subcutaneous implant. Here is an example of this Hexastrol, Ralgro, Sinovax. So, rapid gain. So, there are number of these products are available. A high percentage of growing finishing cattle and sheep, they are treated with one or more of these implants. Then beta agonistic compounds, these are the molecules that structurally resembles epinephrine, caffeine, ephedrine or aspirin. They are easily made in the lab, and they increase the muscle synthesis and decrease in the muscle breakdown. And in case of fat, that decreases lipogenesis and increases lipolysis. Here is an example of this Paleine that is used as a feed additives or hormone like additives, beta agonistic, and they also impact the animal behavior, their aggressiveness. Here is how you can insert the needle and to place the implant. Then here is an example of bovine somatotropin that have been FDA approved and commonly used in the animal. That is a protein hormone that is used to increase the feed efficiency and milk production in lactating dairy cattle, that is administered via intramuscular injection in the animal. But in case of Pakistan, the use of this bovine somatotropin hormone, that is in the form of boostin, that was commonly available in the market, or Somatec, they hormones they have been completely banned by the Punjab government, and they have not been allowed to be given to the animal. Then comes the antioxidants. Antioxidants, they are the protecting, they are used to avoid rancidity in the diet or to stop the oxidation process in the diet. So, the major objective is to improve the keeping quality of the diets. So, antioxidants, they are usually added to protect the vitamins and fatty acids that are present in the diet, and their oxidation should be avoided. Synthetic oxidants, antioxidants, they are available in the market like this ethoxyquin, butylated hydroxy, anisole, butylated hydroxy, toluene, that can be used. Similarly, the natural antioxidants like vitamin E, vitamin C, they can be used in the animal diet. So, next comes the preservatives. They are used to prevent feed deterioration. Mold or bacterial inhibitors, they are used, and they are used to increase the shelf life of the diet. Here is an example of this vitamin C, calcium sorbate, citric acid, phosphoric acid, propylene glycol, sodium propanate, sodium metabisulfite, all can be used. Then under the digestion modifiers, they are the buffers and neutralizer. I have already mentioned that when we are feeding a high concentrate diet, or when there is a less fiber in the diet, there is a less chewing, and ultimately there is less saliva production. So, due to less saliva production, there is a chances of an increase in ruminal pH. So, that might lead towards the acidosis. So, just to maintain the neutral pH in the rumen, the buffers, they are added in the diet. Buffers are the salt of weak acid or base that provide resistance to pH changes. So they lessen the decrease in pH caused by the VFA's production. So they are valuable for for use in high concentrated diet to ruminant animals, but not high roughage diet, because high roughage or forage diet there is more chewing and there is a production of more buffer in the form of present in the saliva. So that help to maintain the pH, but when we are feeding more concentrate to the animal, then we have to take care of feeding these buffers to the animal. So here are some of the examples: sodium bicarbonate, potassium bicarbonate, calcium carbonate, magnesium oxide and magnesium carbonate. It can be offered to the animal. The dosage and its application, that should be according to the type of animal, type of diet we are giving to the animal. So we follow all the measures like how much quantity is required according to the animal feeding. Then direct fed microbes and yeast, they include the cultures of live organisms or ingredients or both that stimulate microflora in the gut to favor healthy environment. So we can use bacteria, we can use enzymes, mold inhibitors, or fungi, oligosaccharide and yeast, all that can be used, but that can help. So enzymes here mean that when we are using those direct fed microbes or yeast that are producing the enzymes. Lactobacillus species, Streptococcus, fungi, Aspergillus, Bacillus, they are used. Even the probiotics, they are also used direct fed microbes. So here are the example or a long list of microorganisms that can be used as direct fed microbes or in the form of probiotic to the animal. Then comes the enzymes. Enzymes mostly they are commonly used in case of monogastric species because they are incapable of utilizing the cellulose or hemicellulose in the diet or fibrous component of the diet. So in addition to fibrolytic enzymes, we can use the enzymes non-starch polysaccharidases like beta glucanase, we can use xylanase, and then to improve the availability of phytate bound phosphorus. Phytase can be used even nowadays. The proteases enzyme, they have been commonly used in monogastric species or in poultry diet. So the enzymes, they are supplement basically they supplement the insufficient enzyme secretion of the young animals like amylase, protease or lipase. They can improve the availability of plant storage polysaccharides, starch, oils and proteins by degrading the cell wall content like cellulose by the enzyme cellulase. They also destroy anti-nutritive material that interfere with the digestion and utilization of the nutrient like glucanase, xylase. They destroy serial cell wall compound beta glucans and arabinoxylans. Phytase releases phosphorus and other minerals from phytic acid in cereals and seeds. Here is an example of the utilization of beta glucanase enzyme in broiler chicks. So if you look at the content of wheat, 20% wheat, 30, 40, 50 and 60% wheat. So with the addition of the enzyme, there is an increase in the broiler body weight gain or broiler growth rate. So you look with the passage of time, with increasing wheat in the diet and the utilization or the supplementation of the enzyme in the diet increases the weight gain 2.14 kg when enzyme was added, whereas the diet without enzyme having 60% wheat that have less weight gain 1.7. So these beneficial microorganisms they produce different type of enzymes that complement the digestive ability of the host, and their presence provides a barrier against invading pathogens. Digestive upsets are common particularly at a time of stress like at the time of weaning in a calf and feeding desirable bacteria such as lactobacilli. Under this situation, they destroy the undesirable bacteria as well as the harmful species. So it has been suggested that the desirable bacteria exert their effect in a number of ways. Those help in the improvement of the animal performance. They improve either they improve the general health of the animal, they also lower the blood cholesterol level, particularly when we are conscious. In case of human being, they are also enhance the immune competence in the individual. So the mode of action is still unclear, but some of scientists, they have suggested, okay, they either they make a change in a gut microflora, and they also reduces the number of disease or pathogenic microorganisms. They also result in the production of some antibiotics, and the synthesis of lactic acid also is another type of mechanism, okay, that this production of acid lowers the gut pH, and that is harmful for pathogenic microorganisms. They also colonize or adhere to the intestinal mucosa. That is why due to the production of some enzyme from these probiotics, there is a utilization of more nutrient, and due to the competitive exclusion of these pathogenic microorganisms, more surface area is available for nutrient absorption, and those pathogenic microorganisms, they also synthesize or produce certain toxic amines in the gut. So that is being prevented when these beneficial microorganisms are. Prebiotics, they are defined in many ways. They are defined as non-digestible food ingredients or feed ingredients, and they are usually carbohydrates. So they can also be defined as, okay, they are the compounds other than dietary nutrients that modify the balance of the microfloral population by promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria, and thereby provide a healthier intestinal environment. The common examples, they are because they are the carbohydrate in nature, so they are galacto-oligosaccharides present in legume seeds, fructo-oligosaccharide again present in cereal grains, mannan-oligosaccharide present as a yeast cell wall, and inulin. So all these are the prebiotics. So they may selectively enhance beneficial bacterial population in the gut, like bifidobacteria and lactobacilli. This fructo-oligosaccharide have a bifidogenic action. They produce acetic acid having bactericidal action. The plus point of using these prebiotics is the growth promotion of probiotic gut microflora, decrease the attachment of harmful bacteria with the gut wall, improve digestive health and regularity and mineral absorption, enhance immune function. So it has been suggested that these prebiotic compounds, they achieve their beneficial effect in the gut by two main ways. Okay, they are not easily digested by the host digestive enzymes or compounds like fructo-oligosaccharide. They can be fermented by favorable bacteria like bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, giving them a competitive advantage. This shifts the microbial population towards such microorganisms and away from harmful species. And secondly, the gut microbial population may be altered by the oligosaccharide, interfering with the attachment of harmful bacteria to the gut wall. So as a mean of cell recognition, all cell types have a unique configuration of carbohydrate containing compound like glycoprotein or glycolipid on their surfaces. These pathogenic bacterial cells have surface compound called lectins that recognize these carbohydrates and by which they attach to the gut cell. Once attached, the bacteria are able to multiply and produce their harmful effect. Species such as Salmonella and E. coli have a mannose-specific lectin that bind to the mannose residues and on the gut mucosa, used in a very effective way. Then comes the term symbiotics. Symbiotics, they contain both probiotic and prebiotics, so you can say it's a combination of both pre and probiotic. Organic acids like lactic acid, formic acid, fumaric acid, citric acid, propanonic acid, they can be used. Their major mechanism of action is to stabilize the intestinal microflora by decreasing the ruminal pH, and they can be effective in early weaned and young animals, and they can be incorporated into the diet or into the drinking water. Then comes the phytogens. Phytogens, they are basically the plant based compounds. They may be in the form of plant extract, may be in the form of essential plant oils, and they can be used as such in the form of herb, spices, or essential oil, or some of the extract oleoresins. Herbs, they are the flowering, non-woody and non-persistent plant. Spices, herbs with an intensive smell or taste commonly added to human food. Essential oil, volatile lipophilic compound derived by cold expression or by steam or by alcohol distillation. Oleoresin, extract derived by non-aqueous solvents. Here is an example of these. They are the sage, peppermint, garlic, thyme. They can be used for the partial replacement of antibiotics. They have very complex effect because they have the flavor and they have antimicrobial compound. They have also antioxidant compounds. A number of active compounds have been reported in different type of plant extracts or these essential plant oils. The products used are mostly the mixture of different plant extracts and oils that can be given to the animal. Their advantage is they don't have any side effect, don't need the withdrawal period because there is no residual effect, non-hazardous, they are environment friendly, and they minimize the problem of drug resistance that we face in case of giving antibiotic. But the limitation is the activity of these phytogens cannot be easily quantifiable and cannot be standardized due to their complex composition. So sometimes we cannot expect the 100% activity in one case when we compare it with the second one. The location, the reason is the location, soil type, weather condition, altitude, season during which the plant is grown or harvested, the procedure of harvesting, then storage condition, they all affect the composition of the plant. Although majority of herbs, they are stable, there are various constituents which are light labile or photolabile or thermolabile, so that makes them less stable. So these are some of the limitations, but they have a tremendous effect on the well-being, on the productivity of animal. So phytogenic feed additives, they have a number of properties, like they have antimicrobial, antioxidant, anti-stress, gut microflora manipulation, nutrigenomic effect, immune enhancement, stimulation of digestive secretions, growth promoting application or efficiency. So you can say in a single type of phytogenic feed additive we can get a multiple type of properties. So that's why they have a multiple type of application. They can be used as a growth promoter, as a immunomodulator, prevention of metabolic disorders, increasing the absorption and metabolism of nutrients. Alternative can be used as an alternative for number of chemical compounds. Then toxin binders, they are used for binding the mycotoxins like F2 toxins, zearalenone, T2 toxins, deoxynivalenol, fumonisin, aflatoxin. Generally they decreases their absorption through the gut. There are a number of products which are available in the market, like bentonides, that the aluminum silicate, glucomanons. So they affect their efficiency is toxin dependent because different type of adsorbent or toxin binders, they have different effectiveness against different type of toxins. So they bind sometimes some minerals or nutrients. So that's why particularly these bentonides, they usually do not considered as good as a toxin binder. So biological control of toxin, particularly this aflatoxin, is more common now. Then coloring material, carotenoids, pigments, xanthophyll pigment, lutein, lycopene, they can be used to improve the yolk color, even the skin color, or the color of the fat below the skin. So they are usually synthetic color compounds, and they are used in a limited amount, and some of the countries, they have certain limitations for using these color materials. Then comes the salivation inducers. Particularly in case of ruminant animals, they have a very good effect when we are using some type of feed stuff that is not liked by the ruminant animals. So the salivation inducer, they also act as a digestion modifiers, because they improve the salivation, and that saliva also contain benefit effect on maintaining ruminal pH. They improve digestion with high concentrate diet, particularly sulforamine, that increases the salivation rate, rumen pH, and improve the efficiency of microbial protein synthesis in the ruminant. Flavoring materials or feed acceptance or stabilizer, they are available and they can be used in monogastric or polygastric diet. Sugar, vanilla, these are different type of essence or flavors that improve, basically they improve the feed intake, and they can be effective mostly in young intensively growing animals. Their effect depend upon the flavor sensation of different animal species. So they can also be used in pet food. Antifungal or feed stabilizer, propionic acid, sodium diacetate, sorbic acid, gentian violet, sodium metabisulfite or sulfur dioxide, they can be used to lower the pH, so they do not allow the growth of the fungal species. Pellet binders, already discussed, like bentonides, hemicellulose extract or lignin sulfonate, they can be used to improve the quality of the pellets, both in case of ruminant as well as non-ruminant. We can use some NPN compounds as a feed additives, particularly in case of ruminant animals, to improve the nitrogen content of the diet, like urea or ammonium salt. They can be used, but they can also be used as a supplement. So we cannot say strictly that's NPN compound as a feed additives animal diet. Then some amino acids, when there is a deficiency of some amino acid, we can use these lysine or methionine or other amino acid product, because if we bypass these amino acids and made them available at rumen, so they can improve the animal productivity. But such type of feed additives, they are usually considered when there is a deficiency of a particular amino acid, so we can add it as a supplement rather than as a feed additives. So thank you for a lot of literature is available on feed additives. So according to your country regulations, they can be used, and the choice again depend upon the feeding practices to the animal, feeding management, animal performance. Sometimes a multiple feed additives can be added in a single compound diet. Thank you.